Well, in Kentucky, you never know what winter is going to bring, but for your chickens, it's really important to make sure that we have them and their coop ready for winter. So today we're going to talk about that, how to winterize your chicken coop and what to look for in the winter, because a lot of times we get calls. You know, we have a snow and people call and say, what should I do? I can't keep my chicken water from freezing. And that's probably the number one thing to consider, especially right now, is all throughout the winter and anytime we need to have access to fresh, unfrozen water for any of our livestock, especially our chickens. And we have a couple options. I have a couple photos here of some electric chicken waters. Now you would need to have electricity to your coop, but the first one's a plastic one. And sometimes we still have some trouble with the freezing and thawing with plastic, but you can plug the base in and it'll keep your water from freezing. The other one is a metal and it has a heated base to it. And that base, when you plug it in, will keep that water from freezing. And then if you don't have electricity to your chicken coop, the other option is to have two waters that you exchange several times throughout the day to make sure that they always have access to unfrozen water. Now my favorite and what we have at home are nipple waterers, and we buy the nipples and actually have a bucket that you can drill those holes in for the nipple waterers because it keeps your bedding cleaner and it eliminates the moisture. Because a lot of times if you don't have electricity, you need to move your water inside the coop, and when doing so, sometimes that can increase the moisture in your coop. So if you have the nipple waterers, then that will help eliminate some of that excess moisture and spills in that. And so those are easy to make and you can do it yourself. We have some plans for you to be able to follow to be able to do that. But water's number one. And then I kind of alluded to it, the coop. The bedding is super important. So with your litter, especially during the winter time, we want you to have 4 to 6 inches at least of bedding material or litter material. Now, a lot of times we use straw and it's easy. You can get access to it pretty easily and you'll just spread this to your, and 6 inches is probably better than 4 because it provides some insulation. We have that deep litter pack in there. But straw is not as absorbent as something like pine shavings or wood shavings would be. We would still need to use this at about a 6-inch deep level, but if we do have any spills, any moisture gets into the coop like snow or anything like that, this is going to be way more absorbent of keeping that moisture out of your coop. Now, why is that important? A couple reasons. One, the more moisture that's in the coop could be prone for your chickens to have frostbite. And frostbite is one of those things that we really need to be concerned about in the winter months, especially if there's a lot of moisture in the coop. And what we're looking for there is we're going to be looking at the combs, at the wattles, and at the feet of the chickens. And if you start seeing a little yellowing happening, then your chickens might be experiencing some frostbite. Now just a little bit, your combs are going to turn black, your wattles, and some parts of the feet might also turn black if they've experienced frostbite. And what you can do is you can take a little bit of petroleum jelly before a big freeze event happens and coat the wattles and the comb with some of that, and that's going to provide a little bit of insulation and a little bit of protection. Now if you do feel like your chickens have suffered frostbite, you need to contact a veterinarian because sometimes if it's severe frostbite, the treatment might need to be necessary. So that's one thing, we want to keep the moisture out. Also, the moisture can cause problems. It can make the bedding and litter wet. We might have ammonia issues in our coops, and it seems like every winter we get calls about chickens with their eyes watering or maybe with a cough, and it's usually because of the ammonia levels in the coop. Now, they do have some new products called Chick Flick that you can take. I haven't found it locally yet, but you can order it online, and it's just something that you can sprinkle over the top of your litter, and it helps take the ammonia down. It only lasts for about a week or a week and a half, and there are ammonia testers that you can actually get to make sure that your ammonia levels aren't very high in your coop. The other way to keep your ammonia levels down is make sure you have some way of ventilating that chicken coop, either through doors or your vents, some way to get that air, fresh air in and get those ammonia levels out. So super important. The last thing is feed. We need to consider feed. You're thinking, well, my chickens aren't laying eggs. Anytime the temperature drops below 55 degrees, our egg production is probably going to decline. Now, if it gets to freezing, we might not have any egg production because that's the first thing to go because they're trying to keep their body temperature warm. But feed, the digestion, the active digestion helps increase the body temperature of those birds. So we still need to keep the feed to them, make sure they're fed a nice adequate diet. And if you have to coop them up in the coop for a very long period of time, you might give them some scratch feed just to kind of keep them busy because chickens are very curious. And if one ever gets a peck on it and they're cooped up into that situation, you could have some cannibalism going on and things like that that are not desirable through the winter months. So keep them active, keep them warm, a lot of bedding and fresh water, and your chickens should do great until the spring when they start laying their eggs again. But if you have any questions about winterizing your chicken coop or caring for your chickens during the winter, make sure to contact us here at the Extension office and we'll be happy to help.